What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on all so you get notified straight away. So this weekend, very busy one. This past Saturday with boxing, 3 big cards. And yeah, this is just going to be a brief video discussing a few of these main events. So one of the big results was, of course, Luis Alberto Lopez knocking out Mick Conlan as he is called. And that was an exceptional performance by Luis Alberto Lopez. You know, Michael Conlan did kind of stand in a pocket with him certain times. He did have his moments in the fight, but it was just a case of, in a nutshell, that he just, as much as he had his moments, I think sometimes that the sort of wide stance that he has, you know, doesn't allow for him to, you know, it more so favors, I would say, guys who can sort of punch harder, because he takes his wide stance, and it allowed him to land some good shots onto Alberto Lopez. But the problem was when Alberto Lopez landed his shots, because he's such a puncher, and you know, Conlan was having a lot of problems with the angles, because Luis Alberto Lopez is one of those boxers that he's such a powerful puncher, and he just comes at you from these awkward angles, these unorthodox angles where you're not seeing the punches coming, and he can just sort of surprise you. So even when he ended the fight with that kind of shovel uppercut, the shovel uppercut was, I think it was almost like coming from around his waist area. So it was like Conlan was having success landing his shot, and as he was sort of landing his shot, going to throw his punch, Lopez just sort of comes with his uppercut on his blind side and just takes Conlan out completely. So that was kind of a consistent theme throughout the fight. It was this fact that, as good a boxer as Conlan is, he's quite sharp. I mean, he lacks punching power, but very well schooled guy. But it's just like sometimes you come up against these guys that are just unorthodox, and because he's unorthodox and he's a puncher, it was just too much for Conlan. I'm not too sure what Conlan could have done better really to win this fight. I think, you know, conventional wisdom would suggest that maybe he could have perhaps moved a bit more, boxed on the back foot, rather than having those moments where he's standing in the pocket. That could have maybe been an answer. But even still, even if you do that, this guy's still awkward enough, and still, you know, he puts the pressure on you with his feet so much, and he makes you work. And I think even if you outbox him for periods, he's still going to find you with those awkward shots from those strange angles, and every punch is hard. So I think that's going to be a problem regardless. So we had that there. Luis Alberto Lopez, he hangs onto his world title. Of course, you had the big one in Bournemouth, which was not so great a fight. Poor performance by Lawrence Okolie. Lots of hugging, lots of holding, you know, all the things that people sort of dislike Lawrence Okolie for. Those things were on display. But credit to Chris Billam Smith, who in front of 15,000 of his home fans over there in Bournemouth was able to pull it off against Okolie. And credit to the referee in this fight as well, because the referee did actually take points off of Lawrence Okolie, because he's been able to sort of get away with holding in a lot of his other fights, but in this fight I think he lost about at least 2 points or 3 points for holding. And it's like, even within him losing those points, he was still trying to hold. And you know, credit to Chris Billam Smith, he found a way through to deal with the holding, and he also put Okolie down. Okolie suffered 3 knockdowns in this fight. I think one of those knockdowns in the 10th round, that was, I'm not too sure if that was a punch. I think that might have been a slip or something. But I think the one that was early in the fight and the one that was in the 11th round, those were both come from punches. So Chris Billam Smith, a clear deserved winner. And as far as Okolie goes, I don't know. It was just one of those performances where he's got these attributes. He's got the strength. He's got the size. He's got the height, but he just doesn't put it to use. The only thing he uses is his strength, but he's using his strength to hold and to hug his opponents. And for me, it was just an awful performance by Okolie. He had a few moments in there, but overall, just very poor. It was just a bit of a hugging fest from him. So, yeah, Billam Smith, deserving winner. He was holding back the tears, won it in front of his home fans. Good performance by him. He showed that he's got good power in both hands last night. And for a lot of people, they'll be happy because it will kind of, relieve Lawrence Okolie of that world title. There's a rematch clause. And I understand Lawrence Okolie in the post-fight interviews was talking about exercising that rematch clause, but I'm sure that the promoter of the shows, Ben Shalom, I'm sure that he probably won't want that, because it will be another sort of fight like that where it's a lot of holding and hugging and not much action. It won't be a fight that's going to be attractive and good to watch for the fans. But yeah, credit to Billam Smith. Good performance on his end. He did what he could in spite of the difficult circumstances. And the last one, of course, the loss was Leigh Wood, who regained his world title against Maurizio Lara. In this fight, I would say that Leigh Wood outboxed Maurizio Lara over the 12 rounds. He was able to read those shots coming. Lara's big, wide hooks and everything did not work last night. Wood was outboxed him pretty much for the 12 rounds. Was able to score an early knockdown, which was a real big point in the fight that really showed that Leigh Wood is also a power puncher. And I think it took Lara by surprise. I don't think he was expecting that, because the last time he was pretty much able to walk through some of the shots coming from Leigh Wood and land his own and ultimately get that knockout. But credit to Ben Davison, who devised the game plan, and to Leigh Wood for sort of carrying it out. The fight was just a straightforward pattern, basically. Maurizio Lara at the end of Leigh Wood's jab, at the end of his straight punches, having to take quite a few shots, and he just wasn't really able to get much of offense off, was Maurizio Lara. He was sort of lagging behind all the time, and because he's got this style where he's very crude and he sort of wing shots in from the outside, and a lot of the time don't have respect for the opponent's punching power or what's being thrown at him. So he just, a lot of the time, he just sort of walks through whatever you're throwing in order to land his big hooks. And every shot he throws, like some of the other fighters from Mexico, all the shots he throws are power shots. But to Leigh Wood's credit, he was able to see the patterns and see what Lara was doing. And whenever Lara would even think about coming in, he'd have to take a few shots on his way in, a few good 1-2 good straight shots off of Leigh Wood. So yeah, he done exceptionally well and regained his world title. And I mean, when we think about the context of this fight, given the result of the last one where Wood was KO'd in round 7, a lot of people were saying Leigh Wood should not take this rematch because of Lara knocked him out last time, and Lara's very dangerous, and you can't afford to make any mistakes with Lara because he punches too hard. And the vast majority of people, when it comes to sort of, I would say, the boxing media, the general public, were picking Lara to knock him out again, because it was a case of, well, you make one mistake, he catches you, he takes you out. And even myself, I was definitely picking Lara for this fight. I just thought he'd get to Wood with a shot, and he'd, this time, as it was the last time, I thought it was going to be repeat. So we really do have to give a lot of credit to Leigh Wood, because he went in there in spite of the fact that, I don't know what it was, about 2-3 months ago, he was knocked out by this guy. He had the guts to face his demons, to face the same guy again that knocked you out the last time, and to, not let that faze you, the fact of what happened last time, so big credit to him. And it shows the true fighting spirit, because in spite of what happened last time, he was ready to go in there. He knew that he'd won rounds last time and he was winning the fight last time, so goes in there and does a job on the guy. So yeah, Nottingham now has a two-time world champion. So big credit to him. And for me, that was probably one of the best fights of the lot. Probably the knockout from Luis Alberto Lopez was a bit better, but yeah, this was a good little fight too. So let me know what you think of these three fights over the weekend. And until next time, it's MKO Pugilism over and out. See you next time.